Dear colleagues, dear friends, good morning and good evening to all of you, and thank you for joining us to this Workers' Voices episode during the 111th session of the International Labour Conference. My name is Mamadou Kabasware. I'm the head of communications and publications at the ILO's Bureau for Workers' Activities. We are here today to discuss about a very important topic, which is labor protections. As you probably know, labor protection is at the heart of the mandate of the ILO. However, 4 billion people have no social protection around the world. How to extend labor protection to all workers, in particular to those who are in the informal economy? What could be the role of trade unions and the ILO to achieve social protection for all? To discuss about these issues, I'm very pleased to welcome Magnus Norddahl, the workers' spokesperson of the Recurrent Discussions Committee on Labor Protections. Magnus, thank you for joining us here. As you know, the ILC will adopt a resolution and conclusions concerning the second recurrent discussions on labor protections. In your view, what are the main benefits from this for workers?
Well, the main benefits from it is that we got a very good and constructive discussion on some of the big issues that we are dealing with, and also on new issues. We have some good conclusions on what needs to be done in order to limit working time, because it's excessive as it is. People are working too much for too long time. And we have a forward step, one could say, on the issue of living wages, but also strong text on adequate minimum wages that should be regularly updated. Those are very big issues for all workers. And we got some new items on the agenda too. We got a discussion about algorithmic management and the effect of that on the human, and the need to have, even if we have all these algorithmics, that we still need to have a human control of it in order to preserve the health and welfare of those which are set under such decisions. So those are maybe the big tasks that we discussed and managed to get some steps ahead on it.
So let me talk about a very specific category of workers. With 2 billion workers making their life in the informal economy, as you know, Magnus, informality remains a major challenge to achieve inclusive and effective labor protection for all. In your view, how can trade unions support the extension of social protection to informal workers?
I think what we have to realize, first of all, and keep that always in our mind, it is not the worker's fault that he is working in the informal economy or in insecure forms of work. That has to do with the infrastructure of the economy in the respective countries. So what can the ILO do? The ILO can and should do its level best to promote the standards and the tools that we have in this house to assist governments in order to formalize the economy. And we have a recommendation on the issue that should be also worked for. So there are many things that can be done in this regard, but keep in mind, it's not the worker's fault. It's quite easy actually for an employer to step out of the informal economy with simply registering the company that he's running. He doesn't have to run it in the informal economy. He can take it into the formal one. So it's an issue more or less for governments to do the job based on ILO assistance, and of course, according to the circumstances that are in each country, because they are not all alike. But this is a problem that can be tackled and should be tackled to move people from the informal to the formal, but also to secure people from moving from insecure forms of work into securer forms of work. And that's not only the informal economy, that is also in the formal economy that we need to address as regards these insecure forms of work, for instance, like temporary employment agreements.
You talk about the specific role of the ILO and in particular the government as well regarding informal workers. Just to come back to resource mobilizations and the ratification and implementation of the international labor standards, as you know, are key to achieve inclusive, adequate, and effective labor protection for all. In your view, what priority actions does the ILO need to undertake to fulfill its constitutional mandate to achieve social protection for workers?
Well, is decided when we have in the final minutes of these meetings on the recurrent item. We actually focus on the relevant conventions, on the relevant recommendations, and we guide and we ask the ILO to promote them, and we have various opportunities to do that. So it can be a campaign. There needs to be taken money to do it. The ILO needs to do more on it, and it should have the definite support of the workers group at least to do that, and that is to promote and provide technical assistance where it is needed.
So after these discussions, because just to remind the audience that the first discussions took place in 2021, after these discussions, what are your expectations from workers' organizations?
I expect the workers' organizations to take these conclusions, which not only are a commitment from the ILO, but there is also a chapter on the commitment to the member states. And the member states actually agree to do their level best to ensure labor protection to all workers. And that is repeated again and again and again. So what we expect from the labor organizations in whatever country it is, that they actually take these conclusions and keep the government occupied on putting them forward, enacting them, and also take it as a source for something that we need to address in our collective agreements. For instance, like on the algorithmic issue, that's something that we need to take up in collective agreements. The right to disconnect, these are occupational safety and health issues, to be able to disconnect from work when you're finished. So we have a lot of material there for the workers' unions to take the conclusions, work with them, incorporate them into their work, and also press the governments and the employers on actually making them realized in the world.
We are coming to the end of this interview. Finally, Magnus, what are your takeaways from this conversation?
I am in general optimistic, as always maybe, because one needs always to be optimistic, but the takeaway from it is that the governments, when they make a commitment, they should be kept to it. And now we have conclusions. And now we move also into a phase within the governing body to find the relevant resources. And that has to be addressed within the program and budget. So we will have to make sure that the budget and the money that we have, now everything has been settled on the financial issues, that we have funds and people to work on it, so we could direct the ILO to work towards doing what the conclusions are actually have. And this is very important because this is in the format of the recurrent discussion. And we have the recurrent discussion exactly for that reason, to take the relevant conventions on a topic that are many labor standards, like for instance, the labor protection, take this at one time in one conference and give a very clear direction to the ILO, to the governing body, to work on the issues and provide the necessary funds. And that's our work in the GB to follow up to that.
Thank you very much, Magnus, for these very interesting conversations. Just to remember that Magnus Norddahl is the worker spokesperson of the Recurrent Discussions Committee on Labor Protections. Thank you also to our audiences who are watching this interview via social media. I hope you enjoy this interview with our guest. Thank you very much, and see you soon.